everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about the series that I finished or caught up with in 2022. I also had quite a few DNFs, but I don't really want to go into that much detail about those because they're books I don't really care for, so I'm not going to bother listing those, but I will give you the numbers. I'll give you the stats first and then we'll go into the series that I managed to finish. So in total, I finished 9 book series in 2022. That's not very many, and I have given myself the goal for 2023 to read 13, which I feel like is a decent number. Considering how many books I do have to read. I also caught up with 2 book series, which again is not great. I really wish that I was better at reading series, but I'm just not. However, I am really good at starting series because I managed to start 40 different book series, which is honestly atrocious. I don't really have a goal to not start book series, to be honest, and I don't really want one because I find that I like experimenting with different book series and authors, so I don't really have any problems starting a bunch of series. My issue is that I never freaking finish them. I also DNF'd 16 series in 2022, which is quite a lot, and most of those are actually old school YA books because, in case you didn't know, I'm trying to reduce my TBR, and one of the ways that I'm doing that is I am reading through my old YA books that I bought like 10 years ago when I first started my channel, 11 years ago now. I have a lot of those, and a lot of them are first books in a series or a trilogy, duology, whatever, and they're just not to my taste anymore, but I don't want to get rid of them without giving them a chance because at one point, teenage me or young adult me was really enthusiastic for them and looking forward to them. So I want to at least give them a try. And these books were starter books in a series, and some of them I DNF'd, some of them I just didn't like, some of them I felt very meh about. Like, I liked the book, but I'm not going to carry on with the series, so that's why I have 16 DNF series there. So that's it for stats. I'm going to talk about the 11 book series that I either finished or caught up with in 2022. Again, I do wish I had more. 2023 is going to be my year of reading series, I think. So first of all, I finished off the Scythe series by Neil Shusterman in a couple of different ways. So I reread The Toll in January 2022, which I gave 5 stars, loved it. I think I gave it 4.5 stars when I first read it a couple of years ago when it first came out, and then upon a reread I realised it's an all-time favourite, so I gave it 5. Neil Shusterman also released a short story collection called Gleanings in November of 2022, and I read that and quite enjoyed it. It's okay, which means I have refinished book series and also finished it for a second time. I think maybe that should count for 2. Overall, excluding the short story collection, it's a 5-star series. I love the series so much, and I'll probably reread it again in a few years' time. I also read the Complete Mouse series, so this is a duology of graphic novels. It's historical non-fiction. The author and illustrator is telling the story of his parents who were Jewish in Germany and they were imprisoned in concentration camps. This doesn't really feel like a series to me because I've got it all in 1 volume, but it counts as 2. So I'm counting it in this list. The third series that I finally finished was the Harper Connolly series by Charlene Harris. You may know this name from the Sookie Stackhouse books. I read the first 3 books in this series years and years ago, but I'd never read the 4th book, and at the beginning of the year I was really enthusiastic and thought I would finish a load of old school series, and I only actually finished this one, and I decided to finally pick it up and kind of lay it to rest because it's been long enough. I actually reread all of these books, I think, from what I can remember, so that I could also recap them, and I enjoyed it. It was all right. It's not my favourite series ever. What this is about is a woman was struck by lightning and she gained the power to sort of trace dead bodies, and when she touched them she can see how they died. It's just a typical urban fantasy series. The main character has feelings for her stepbrother. They didn't grow up together or anything. They met later when they were teenagers, like late teenagers. Yeah, it's very much like an early noughties book. I enjoyed it, but I'm not going to reread the series. Then I read the entirety of White Sand, the graphic novels by Brandon Sanderson. I didn't really like these. I think I gave the first volume 3 or 3.5 stars. The next one got 3, and then the last volume got 2 stars. I think it was terrible. It was in my worst books of the year video. The art style changed like partway through and I really didn't like it, so that's a shame. But I did complete a Brandon Sanderson series in 2022, so I feel like that's an accomplishment. Then I finished the David series. I read the short story collection, which is River of Silver. I don't think you can see it up here. S.A. Chakraborty released this as an ebook just after Empire of Gold, the final book in the trilogy, came out, and then she re-released it with her publishers as an audio copy, and then later on released the physical version about 6 months later. So I listened to it as an audiobook, and then I pre-ordered the hardback as well, and that came in October, I think, and I'm probably going to reread it again when I reread the entire series because it's my all-time favourite fantasy series. I love it so much, and I was really happy to be back in the world. And I actually already read the ebook when she first released it, but it has been edited since and some things have changed. I'm counting it as finishing the series in 2022. I read the entirety of the Off-Campus series, which starts with, I think, The Deal. I started reading this as part of the 24-hour readathon because I thought it would be really fast-paced, and it was. I read all 3 books. Well, I read 3 of the books for the readathon and then finished off the 4th one later on. The 4th one was crap, but the first book was quite good. This is a adult romance series based around a male hockey team, ice hockey that is, and they all get different love interests in each book. In the first book, I really liked the couple in that one. I can't remember their names. They just sort of go downhill from there, but I'm glad that I finished it, so then I can say that I have read it. I just wouldn't revisit it and I wouldn't buy my own physical copies because I read them as ebooks. I finished the Inheritance Games series. The final book, Final Gambit, came out in August or September in 2022 and I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. This is why I never finish series, because the endings to them are always so lackluster and just kind of like meh, and I'm always expecting really great things if I really love the first 2 books. Very few authors I found can pull off the ending. S.A. Chakraborty is one of them. She is fantastic, but this ending was not as good. Actually, the spin-off book is coming out in 2023 in this year, and I'm probably going to read it because I'm kind of attached to the characters and I'm interested in the mystery, and I do think Jennifer Lynn Barnes is a good author. I just didn't really like the Final Gambit. It just felt very standard, middle of the road. It didn't feel to me as though she cared as much about it as she did the other books. That may not be fair to say, but that's how I felt. I finished or caught up with Tokyo Ever After, which at the moment is a duology and there hasn't been a 3rd book announced, so I'm counting it as finished at the moment. I think the author could write more in this series. It just depends how sales for the 2nd book go. I gave the first book 4 stars and the 2nd book 3.5. This is kind of like Princess Diaries set in Japan. The main character is Japanese American and she finds out that her father is the crown prince of Japan, so she goes over to meet him and her entire family and kind of learn more about Japanese culture because she doesn't know anything. And there's a bit of a bodyguard romance in the first book, not so much in the 2nd. A bit of a love triangle in the 2nd book, which I don't know, I don't really want to talk about it in case I spoil who she ends up with, but I wasn't keen on who she did end up with. But this is a cute series and I will carry on with it if the author releases more books, but for now I'm counting it as complete. I finished A Good Girl's Guide to Murder in 2022 because I read the novella that came out for World Book Day. I had read the previous novels in the series, but this is a very short story called Killjoy, which is kind of like a prequel short story based around Pip, the main character, taking part in a murder mystery game with her friends, and she realizes that she really enjoys investigating and true crime and looking into mysteries, so that's where she kind of got her idea for her, I can't remember what it was called, like school project thesis sort of thing, which is a big part of the first book in the actual series. So yeah, I'm counting this one as complete because I've read the short story now. I caught up with the Mina and the Undead series, which I do think is going to be a trilogy. I read Mina and the Slayers, which is the 2nd book, and I reread the first book actually as well. I gave Mina and the Undead 4 stars and Mina and the Slayers 3, I think. This is a vampire book set in the 90s and it has all of your classic 90s horror vampire vibes, and it's set in Louisiana. I really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to reading the 3rd book, and I'll probably reread Mina and the Slayers as well before that one comes out. And then finally I read House of Sky and Breath. I actually finished it. I started it in January when it came out last year, and it took me until the end of November to read because it put me in an ebook reading slump, so I had to go out and buy the freaking hard copy in order to actually finish it. I didn't love it. It went on for way too long. It had some really pointless points of view and a lot of it felt very convoluted, but it was a really easy read once I got the hard copy, and it's just kind of like fiction that you don't really need to think too much about, and I quite like the world building in this apart from what happens at the end, because a character shows up that I hate. I don't really want to talk about it because it's a massive twist, but I cannot believe she did that, and I'm really quite annoyed with her because I hate that character and would like to avoid everything that they're in. But now I can't because I do want to finish the series. So I've caught up with that one, much to my own disgust, distress. And I suppose I'm looking forward to the 3rd book, kind of. I need more urban fantasy in my life, I think, is what I'm actually missing, not Sarah J Maas books. But anyway, those are the 11 book series that I have finished or caught up with in 2022. I am hoping 2023 goes better for series. I feel like I can't run a series recapping website and be this bad at reading series. I should probably also mention a reason why I start so many series and don't finish them is also because of recaptains, because I don't recap the final book in a series, so I don't have any obligation to finish them off if I'm not loving them, so that's why there are so many DNFs. That's just like an extra bit of info in case you wanted it. So thank you for watching this video. Let me know in the comments below what series you're in the middle of, if you have a series problem as well. Let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know what your thoughts on House of Sky and Breath are, if you hated it as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you all in my next video. Bye!